Joining us live this morning for his weekly chat here on CP24 Breakfast is Toronto Mayor John Tory. Good Wednesday morning to you, Mayor Tory. Hope you're doing well today.
Hey, Nick. Yes, I'm fine, thanks. I hope you are too.
I am doing well. Okay, so let's talk about COVID and this sixth wave right now, because there is so much that we need to sort of get into here, and I'm really wondering where you think we are right now. We haven't heard really anything from the Chief Medical Officer of Health in the province for the last month, although Dr. Eileen Davila from Toronto is saying, she's encouraging masking but doesn't think it's necessary. We need those mandates. But the wastewater data shows infections are going up, disease is going up, hospitalization rates seem okay, but there are dire calls in some sides of sort of infectious diseases, social media for what's happening here. What do you understand the sort of situation we're in right now? Because I think a lot of people are wondering, where's Toronto? What do we need to do here?
Well, I think Toronto is exactly where Dr. Davila and the other experts that we've listened to so carefully, and certainly I have, are exactly where we thought we would be, which is that it was said that when the restrictions were lifted to some extent, that there would be an uptick in cases, and that is what is happening, and that is being looked at and monitored every single day. But I think that the advice has not changed, and so from my standpoint, I have been clear, as the earlier doctor was asking, that we should be, public officials and people that have a platform, in saying to people simply this: vaccination, vaccination, and vaccination are our top three priorities in that order. It has been the case throughout that the best protection people can have against getting sick, and against, in particular, ending up in the hospital and possibly worse, is to get vaccinated. And so we've continued a steady drumbeat. Some people might find it boring to say that with those who have not been vaccinated, including those who haven't had a third dose, should get vaccinated. Dr. Davila added to that this week that she thought that people should voluntarily wear a mask. And she is saying, yes, you should wear a mask whenever you can. She's simply saying at this point in time, the advice coming from her, and I assume from Dr. Moore, is that it is not appropriate to make it mandatory again. And so, but people are clearly saying, please get vaccinated and please wear a mask whenever you can.
So it sounds to me like there are no sort of ongoing discussions, at least at this point, of maybe bringing back any sort of masking mandates for public spaces like stores, restaurants, etc.
I will only say to you that there are ongoing discussions that go on every single day. The focus at the moment for us is now putting a plan in place to make sure that the second booster shot, the fourth dose as they're calling it, there's a plan in place for people 60 plus to receive that. And we've done very well at getting people vaccinated in the city of Toronto. We will focus on getting those fourth doses out when we find out what the province's directions are in that regard. And we will continue our focus, as we're doing this week in TTC stations and elsewhere, on getting people the third dose, and in some cases first and second dose of vaccination, because that remains our priority. But as of the moment, there's no advice being rendered to me and to the others involved, at least in managing this pandemic in Toronto, to suggest that other measures should be taken other than encouragement to wear a mask, encouragement to do all the other things people have been asked to do since the beginning, washing hands and, being careful in crowd scenes and so on. And most importantly, please get vaccinated, and please encourage those who aren't vaccinated to get vaccinated.
Okay, let's look beyond Toronto's borders a little further east into Ottawa. Federal Budget Day is coming up tomorrow. Mayor of the biggest city in the country, I'm sure you're keeping your eyes on what the government is promising. What are you looking for? What would you like to see for the city, or perhaps more widely for municipalities, in tomorrow's budget?
Well, I will comment today on the fact that we've made progress on getting the money needed to offset the impacts of COVID. We've lost a lot of money in our transit system because people haven't been riding, though those numbers are improving. And we've had a lot of costs we've been put to during the pandemic because of shelters and things like that. So the shortfall we had was something in the order of more than $1 billion. And we've had about $500 million, I think, so far of that money, but we need to have more in order to make sure our books are in good order. So that is a very focused concern that Toronto and other big cities have. But beyond that, we've got to continue the push with respect to housing. It is very important that we receive the great support on a continuing basis that we have received from the federal government to help with supportive housing for people experiencing homelessness, and affordable workforce housing for people who are just trying to find an affordable place to live. And that's a very top priority. And then we need to have other measures coming from them that are going to help us to have a strong economic recovery, because Toronto is getting back on its feet, but it needs all the help it can get, especially small and medium businesses need measures to help to support them as they come back back from what has been a very long, difficult period during the pandemic. So we'll be looking for housing as the number one issue. I have other concerns on things like mental health, that are obviously a huge challenge for us, and especially, of course, for the people who are experiencing mental health issues. But it really is measures for economic recovery, housing, and things like mental health that we'll be looking for.
Right. I'm sure one thing that's helping Toronto's recovery right now is the local sports scene. The Blue Jays coming back, opening days coming up Friday, the Leafs on the verge of making the playoffs, the Raptors guaranteeing themselves a playoff spot. When you think about, you just mentioned it, those small and medium businesses, particularly in the downtown area, that have really suffered since, Rogers Centre was closed, so Scotiabank Arena couldn't have fans, et cetera, et cetera. How significant and how important is that these local sports teams, the professional sports teams, are A, doing so well, but also B, will be drawing fans and crowds back into the city?
Well, it's great for the psychology of the city, as I call it. I mean, people are happier when their sports teams are doing well. It creates a certain sense of excitement. But if you look at it in practical terms, as you were suggesting, the Blue Jays, I think, are going to be exciting enough this year. You will have a day back again with us where when the home games are being played here, and that was a big step forward from the years of the pandemic, but you will not only have the games being played, but you will have bigger crowds. You'll have 30 and 40,000 people coming to a game that isn't the New York Yankees and that isn't a playoff game. I think that's going to be great. And then, of course, the other two teams making the playoffs, Raptors having done so, the Leafs on the verge. This is going to put, again, 20,000 people, quite a few nights over the next months, into the Scotiabank Arena. And that is really good for the economy, too, because people go to the restaurants, they go to the bars, they come downtown, they use the transit system. All of this is an integral part of getting us back on our feet, taking the gains that we have achieved as a city through vaccination and so on, consolidating and protecting those, and then moving forward to make sure we can have a strong recovery. And that's what I'm very focused on at the moment. But the sports teams doing well sure helps that, just because it does bring people downtown. It does get them into a better frame of mind, frankly, and it does get them into a position where hopefully they're spending some money with some of these smaller businesses that have been so hard hit during the pandemic.
And you can dust off your Raptors blazer for the playoff run this year.
Yeah, I had it out for Kyle Lowry.
I saw that, yeah.
To him that, in wishing him all the best, and of course we love Kyle Lowry, that we would be showing no mercy in the playoffs and that the jacket would be coming out. And of course now I can bring it out because it only comes out when we make the playoffs, which we have now done, the Raptors, but we've got to see yet who will be playing and how far we're going to be able to get. And I think this is a very exciting young team, and I think they could go a lot further than people thought.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to face the Raptors this year if I was an NBA team, but we aren't here to talk sports. We're here to talk news and also get some viewer questions. So I'll hand things over to Jennifer now. She's got the viewer questions, Mayor Tory.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Good morning, Mayor Tory. Good to see you again. So our first question is related to COVID-19. It's from Rosie, who's been saying that, it's really hard for everyone to keep track of the rules over the last 2 years, including masking and physical distancing. And sometimes, as we know, provincial rules differ from city ones. So Rosie wants to know, can you clarify the rules when riding in elevators?
Well, yes, the bottom line, I think I'm correct in saying this, pretty certain, that the bottom line is from the standpoint of a city bylaw or a provincial rule, there aren't any rules at the moment. Those were among the things that were lifted earlier in March. And so if there are rules now, they are more at the behest of condominium or apartment owners, condominium corporations. And so if people have concerns, either not knowing what the rules are or having some concern about the rules, they should turn to their condominium corporation or their landlord, because at the moment we have issued some guidance about trying to be safe, and that includes the encouragement that Dr. Davila gave to wear a mask and so on, but there are no rules left in place to do with elevators as there were previously during the height of the pandemic.
Okay, and Mayor Tory, from elevators to bike lanes, an issue that never seems to go away here in the city. Turco wants to know, why is the city so keen and aggressive on installing bike lanes everywhere when so many neighborhood streets lack a sidewalk? Is the city more concerned with the safety of cyclists than pedestrians? Because that's what it feels like in my community.
Well, I don't know particularly where Turco lives, but I will just say that we're concerned about the safety of cyclists and pedestrians. And I will say in areas where there are not sidewalks, the law actually now provides for, and that's in respect of people who might have differing abilities and so on, the law actually provides for sidewalks to be installed. And it's interesting because when we try to put them in some neighborhoods that don't have them, people push back and say they don't want them. So it is one of those things that's just a challenge of trying to find that balance, but comply with the law, which says that areas should have a sidewalk, especially as we all get older and more people are trying to spend some time outside. The sidewalks are safe for the pedestrians. The bike lanes are an evolution in the same area, which is to say that there are more and more people cycling for health and environmental and a host of other reasons, cost, affordability, and that we simply have to provide for safe places for them to cycle. And we're doing that too. that creates some controversy from time to time about where you put bike lanes and all this kind of thing. And I just try to achieve in my job a balance, which says that we're going to have an appropriate number of bike lanes put in sensible places, that we're going to base that on data, not on politics and ideology. And sidewalks are a little different. It is the law that sidewalks should exist in neighborhoods, and we don't go and put them in, proactively when we have other work to do, whether it's on sewers or repaving the roads or so on. We install sidewalks where they don't exist. But even that, again, becomes sometimes controversial if people say, no, I like my neighborhood without the sidewalk, but we put them in because the law says that in order to keep people safe, that's what we do.
Yeah, okay, so it's not really based on a preferential treatment system.
No.
Mayor Tory, last but not least, this question is from Lori. She asked you something last week. You said you'd follow up, so we thought we'd see if there's an update. So just a reminder, Lori asked last week, why are parking lots for city parks closed until May? Park users instead park illegally along the side of the park. Surely we don't think we'll have snow until May. Can they not be open sometime in April to accommodate outdoor family activities?
Here's a 100% honest answer, and I've sort of let you down for the first time. I raised it right after I got off the air last week on Wednesday. I just didn't get an answer back, or to my knowledge, I didn't, because I agreed with the viewer that these parking lots are not going to be snowed in anymore. We're now at the stage where hopefully that's behind us, and it does help to have those parking lots open. And so what I'll do is try and, before the show's over today, get an answer to that, because I had suggested that they could be open. Now, at least in many cases, they could be, and I didn't get an answer back to my knowledge, and that's just up to me to follow up and make sure you have that.
Okay, we'll try to follow up with you next week. Mayor Tory, thanks so much for your answers today. Have a good day.
You too, Jennifer. Thank you.
Take care.